The Giza sands trembled under the first light of Zep Tepi. Ptah summoned celestial fire to carve the blueprint of Sa onto the limestone plateau. But history books label these celestial monuments as mere tombs. During this legendary first time, the gods walked among men as living masters of the cosmic balance known as Mot. These three massive structures in Lower Kemet were engineered to anchor the heavens to the red earth forever. They did not seek to bury the dead, but to ground the raw electric power of the heavens. Imagine a world where the Nile was not just water, but a conductor, and the earth beneath your feet was alive with a rhythmic, mechanical heartbeat. The great architect looked upon the massive subterranean aquifers and the high-quartz limestone of the Giza Plateau, knowing that quartz was the bone of the earth, capable of holding a charge that could bridge the gap between the mortal and the divine. This was the birth of the Nature, the House of Nature, a series of crystalline machines designed to stabilize the world's crust and provide the living breath of energy to a civilization that understood the stars better. It was an era of giants, not in stature but in spirit, where the boundaries between science and magic were as thin as the papyrus lining the riverbanks. As the sun rose over the untamed horizon, the gods whispered the secrets of resonance into the ears of the chosen. Preparing to manifest a wonder. To look upon Giza was to look upon a map of the heavens etched into stone, a mirror for the gods to see their own glory reflected in the dust of the mortal realm. The very air shimmered with the anticipation of a world being born, not out of necessity, but out of a divine desire to. Imhotep, the chancellor whose mind was a mirror for the heavens, did not look upon the sands of Saqqara and see a graveyard. To the common eye, a tomb is a finish line, a silent chest for a cold king. But Imhotep whispered a different. It was to be a house of nature, a house of energy, a living lung for the very planet itself. He saw the world not as a flat expanse, but as a vibrating organism that needed to be tuned like a divine lute. The blueprints he held were not drawn with ink and papyrus, but etched into his soul during the long, silent hours of vigil when the Neteru, the primordial forces of the universe, spoke through the rhythm of the stars. He understood that to hold the spirit of Kemet together, to maintain the cosmic balance of Mayat that keeps the chaos of the desert at bay, one must do more than bury a body. One must anchor the sky to the earth. Generations later, this sacred science descended to Hemiunu, the high official whose hands were destined to raise the Akhet Khufu, the horizon of Khufu. Hemiunu did not work with the desperation of a man building a monument to ego. He worked with under his command, 2,300,000 stones were cut from the bones of Mother Earth. Limestone rich with quartz, a stone that hums when the planet breathes. These blocks, some weighing 80 tons, were not mere masonry. They were the cells of a giant unmoving body. He aligned the Great Pyramid to true north with such agonizing accuracy, within 3/60ths of a single degree, that it shames the compasses of modern men. This was not the geometry of a mason. It was the sacred geometry of a conductor preparing an orchestra. Hemiunu knew that if the alignment was off by even the breadth of a finger, the living breath of the earth would fail to flow through the internal chambers. This was to be no Ptah, no mere house of the spirit, but a gargantuan conduit meant to capture the silent roar of the world's internal fires and bridge the gap between the mortal soil and the eternal stars. Each block of granite in the king's chamber was placed not to honor a dead pharaoh, but to resonate with the heartbeat of the cosmos, ensuring that the light of the god. To step inside the throat of Akhet Khufu is to leave the world of the sun. As you walk the ascending passage, the air grows thick with a static charge that makes the hair on your arms stand like wheat in a storm. Look at the walls. There is no soot from torches, no charring from oil lamps, for the architect Hemiunu knew that fire consumes the very breath of the stone. Instead, the grand gallery stretches upward, a cathedral of precision where limestone blocks are fitted so tightly that not a single hair could pass between them. We reach the king's chamber, a vault of rose-red granite brought from the southern reaches of Aswan. These blocks, some heavier than 80 tons, were not mere building materials, they were conductors. The quartz buried deep within the granite is a living thing, a piezoelectric crystal that converts the immense pressure of the millions of tons above it into a constant flow of electrical potential. At the center sits the sarcophagus, a granite coffer carved with high-speed precision that defies the copper chisels of legend. It is larger than the entrance itself, a silent proof that it was placed here while, when struck, this vessel rings with a deep haunting, a sharp, a frequency tuned to the very dimensions of the room. It creates a harmonic resonance that makes the air glow with a pale ethereal light, a phenomenon of sonoluminescence. And that's when the real question emerged. Was this chamber built to house a Beneath our feet, the limestone plateau sits atop ancient aquifers, and as the Nile's waters pulsed through the subterranean chambers, they acted as a hydraulic ram. This was no tomb. It was a geomechanical power plant, a gargantuan resonator of liquid light designed to harmonize the spirit of man with the heartbeat of the world. Even now, the ScanPyramids project peers into the big void above the gallery, seeing only the shadow of a science we are only beginning to remember. This internal geometry was designed to catch the very song of the earth and amplify it until the stone itself began to breathe. Inside these crystalline chambers, the masters of Kemet did not speak of death. The absence of mummies and Medu Neter inscriptions is not a mystery when you realize you are standing inside the engine. Beyond the golden dunes, the great river Hapi, the blue vein of Kemet, did not merely provide life for the emerald stalks of barley, it was the fluid soul required to wake the sleeping titan. Hemiunu, whose mind moved in the rhythmic orbits of the stars, did not design the massive causeways as simple paths for a pharaoh's feet. He carved them as deep limestone arteries intended to drink from the very heart of the flood. When the yearly inundation arrived, swelling the banks until the valley became a shimmering mirror of the sky, the Nile was summoned into the dark, waiting throat of the Giza Plateau. Imagine the sound. A low, rhythmic thrumming, like the beating of a leviathan's heart as the cold water surged into the subterranean chambers, miles beneath the heat of the sun. Here, in the belly of the world, the Earth's immense pressure met the river's torrential weight within a network of tunnels situated directly above the great subterranean aquifers. Within those lightless, granite-lined depths, a forbidden alchemy began to stir, a science that today looks to us like sorcery. Our ancestors did not carry flickering torches into these inner sanctums. The air there remains forever untouched by the black soot of fire. Instead, the priests of the Neter introduced the salts of the earth, zinc and acidic solutions, as these elements combined, a transformation occurred, the creation of an invisible, potent spirit of hydrogen gas. This gas rose through the king's chamber like the breath of a rising god, vibrating against the high-quartz granite. The pyramid was no longer a silent mountain of stone. It was a living, pulsing generator. The piezoelectric crystal within the limestone, compressed by millions of tons of weight, began to turn physical pressure into a silent electric hum. It was a marriage between the rushing river and the static mountain. The Giza Plateau functioned as a resonant musical instrument, its granite beams tuned to a frequency that turned vibration into. This was the true maintenance of Ma'at, using the alchemy of the Nile to steady the Earth's pulse and provide a power that needed no flame, a gift from the gods to ensure the world remained in balance. The gleaming Tura limestone that once wrapped the Great Pyramid in a shell of white fire is gone, stripped away by the generations that followed, used to pave the streets and raise the mosques of a medieval city. What remains is a jagged tan skeleton, a mountain of stone that has watched empires rise and rot into the sand. This was the tragic fate of the Neter. When the world lost its connection to the first time, it saw no longer a vessel of light. For centuries, the caliphs and the explorers forced their way inside, expecting to find the golden glint of a pharaoh's hoard or the dried husk of Khufu himself. They found only the silence of the king's chamber and a granite coffer too large to fit through the door. A vessel that sings. Modern science stands in a stalemate, holding its breath before the big void detected by the muon beams, yet the truth remains hidden in plain sight. We call them tombs, because we cannot fathom a civilization that built for the living resonance of the planet. The legacy of Giza is not one of death, but of Mayat, a profound attempt to anchor the balance. These structures were never meant to be silent. They were the guardians of the Earth's crust, the generators of an invisible breath that kept the world in harmony. As we look upon these silent titans today, we observe the mirror of our own search for power. We burn the earth to fuel our lives, while the architects of Kemet knew how to vibrate with it. The lesson of the Pyrnator is that true greatness is not found in what we take from the world, but in how we align ourselves with its eternal rhythm. The ancient stories still speak to us. Subscribe to hear. Tell us in the comments.